Hi, this is Dan Byram. Welcome to Loading from Loops. And today we have Bill Tullock with us. And Bill, thank you for joining me. It's been a long time. I'm so excited to finally have a sit down with you face to face.
Feel the same way, Dan.
Let's get started and get right to the meat of it. You have a long career in law enforcement, criminal justice. Maybe we could hear your story, how you got started, what dragged you into law enforcement, and through an illustrious career.
Well, we're sort of the original blue bloods. I did 37 years. My dad did 32. My younger brother just completed 50, and
Wow,
I've got a brother-in-law who did another 44.
that's a true legacy.
Yes, like I said, I followed in dear old Dad's footsteps. He was a warrant copper going back to the late 40s, ultimately rose to the rank of senior inspector, which was the highest rank sworn. I joined the Troy Police Department back in 1969. I spent 25 years there and not yet having enough. I did another 11 years with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. My younger brother did 50 with Troy PD,
That's Troy,
uh,
Michigan.
Troy, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. And then the brother-in-law did over 40 with the Ferndale Police Department, which was a bordering city to Detroit.
Yeah, and back then Detroit was seeing a lot of action. Not that it doesn't now, but I recall those years, and there was a lot going on back in it was Wayne County, right?
Yes, there was Wayne County, Macomb County, and Oakland County all shared a common border.
What kind of assignments did you have when you were an officer back then?
Well, I started out in patrol. I then went to an undercover narcotics unit with the Michigan State Police. I then came back to Troy, spent a month in patrol, and while responding to a barricaded gunman call, I ended up catching a slug from a 30-30 deer rifle, which incapacitated me for a couple of years. I then went back and had a couple of administrative assignments working property room, crime prevention. Then I got promoted to sergeant, went to the juvenile section, crime prevention section, administrative section. Then I got promoted to lieutenant, went back to the road. And then after doing a stint on the road, I went into internal affairs, public information, and then a staff aide to the chief.
So you did the whole tour of just about everything there was to do.
Just about back in the day, I think we maybe had 15 different assignments within the department. I think I had 9 or 10 of them, and today I understand they have as many as 27 different assignments within the department.
Yeah. What was your favorite?
I actually liked the street. I really did. Yeah, I worked the graveyard shift midnights. I had a group of great coppers, and you really didn't have to answer to anybody other than the captain when he came in the morning.
Yeah, I remember patrol graveyards. There's nothing like it. You just you didn't have to ask anybody. You just had to explain stuff the next morning.
Pretty much, you had to answer to the captain when he came in and says, "What kind of a night did you have, and why did you do this, and what were the repercussions?"
Now we both had a bunch of UC experience, and I know you had a pretty colorful UC gig back in the days. You care to
I
say
did.
about that, or?
Well, we had a unit that was called NET, Narcotics Enforcement Team, and
Yeah.
they're actually still in operation today. It was made up of officers of the Michigan State Police, Oakland County Sheriff's Department, and a number of suburban departments. And I'll tell you what, that was the absolute finest time I ever had. And as you said, there were some episodes that thank God the statute of limitations is over with.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like Halloween every day out there, portraying the characters and different roles. Now you had some unique roles too in that, right?
I did. There were a couple of ones that come right to mind. I remember we were working in a primarily black area of Macomb County, and we had a number of subjects who we had warrants issued against, and we had to take the kingpin off before we could take anybody else off because of their communications network. So one night we had officers from all the suburban police departments gather to go out and serve the warrants. And our kingpin lived in an apartment complex. Well, when we went to serve the warrants at the apartment complex, there were 7 floors, and the apartment number was duplicated on each and every floor. And our warrant did not specify what floor.
Oh my.
So, so we had to take off the same apartment unit on all 7 floors, and ultimately our kingpin wasn't there. So then we had to go out looking for him, and he drove a specific customized Cadillac. So here we are driving around the county looking for this specific Cadillac, and we see it outside of a bar that is exclusively frequented by African males. So you can imagine the sight of 20 or 30 long haired, bearded white guys going into a bar, heavily armed, and telling everybody to reach for the sky while we're looking for our number one bad guy. That was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of action. That's great. So you retired from Troy PD, and then
Yes, in 1994, the December of 94.
and you left Michigan and went to Nevada.
Yes, yes, I had a job all lined up with the Gaming Control Board, and at the time they were having some tax problems, so they put all hiring on hold. So for about a year, I actually did extra work in a couple of movies that were being shot in Las Vegas.
Well, that's fun. Anything
Uh,
you ever heard of?
uh, I'm trying to recall a couple of them. How about Mars Attacks?
Oh, that's a great picture.
And I played a three-star general in that movie.
A lot of cops, when they retired, do odd jobs, or guys waiting to get a police job do odd jobs. Being a movie extra is kind of rare.
I did that, but I've got another one that's even better than that. Uh, I drove a limo for a guy who was an odds maker here in Las Vegas. So here I am driving this big Lincoln limousine, and I'm taking him and his lady friends all over the valley to some of the hot joints that he frequented. That lasted about 2 weeks.
That's smart.
Well, the other job I had one day, uh, I worked security in a topless bottomless joint, and one day was enough.
Yeah, only in Las Vegas.
Yes, yes, not too proud of that one.
So you wound up at the police department.
I did July of well, I started I think probably in about March. I interviewed for a civilian job with them, being a crime prevention specialist. And there was a lot of interest in the position. Finally, in July of '96, I was notified that I was number one on the list, and went to work for them July of '96 and stayed with them until December of 2007.
And what kind of work did you do there in that job?
Well, I was primarily responsible for educating the public as to ways they could reduce their vulnerability to becoming a crime victim. But that didn't entail all of what I did. I worked for a number of captains and kind of got roped into a number of what we called ivory tower capers, where the sheriff would call you and say, "Hey, somebody dropped the ball, and would you be willing to go out and placate it for me?" So I did that on a number of occasions, and I was probably the only civilian employee who, civilian employees, some of them were able to carry guns. I actually was firearms certified. I had a radio car with lights and siren, and I was even authorized to carry an AR-15.
All right.
So they treated me like one of the guys. I was on the captain's staff. I was on the sheriff's 5-year committee, and it wasn't unusual for me to show up at a call and have some of those young rookies come up and say, "Hey, LT, what do you think we should do?"
I'm sure you had good advice for them too.
Well, I did. Nobody got seriously injured when I was on the scene.
What did you think about working in the desert as compared to working in Michigan?
Out here, you have to realize how large the agency is. There's about 2,500, 3,000 police officers, another 2,000, 2,500 officers assigned to corrections, a lot of backup. They run so many academies that it's not unusual to see 2 officers in a unit. I actually think back in the day, we were probably more violent back in Detroit than they are here in Vegas.
I have to agree with that. From my time working in the Midwest and then coming out west, um, seems like it was pretty buttoned down. But I never ran into anyone I worked with from the Las Vegas Metro. It wasn't on top of their game. You know, I didn't know everybody, but a lot of the guys I knew were pretty good officers.
They're good troops. And I just thought of an incident that happened back when I was working narcotics that you might find kind of humorous and shows how dangerous the job was. Um, we came right off the street and went into these undercover roles. So you spent maybe a month or two growing your hair out and your beard and whatever else. Back when I was on the street, just before I went into narcotics, I arrested a shoplifter. And lo and behold, about 8 months later, when I was working undercover, I was buying fairly large quantities of heroin. I go into a down or a basement apartment and I sit down at the kitchen table, and lo and behold, the guy I had arrested for shoplifting about 8 months earlier was sitting across from me doing his dope right there.
Wow.
And he looks at me and he says, "I know you from somewhere." And I kept looking and said, "You must be mistaken." He said again, "Yeah, I know. I think I know you. You're a cop, aren't you?" I says, "Give me a break. Well, then he says, "Yeah, you are a cop. I remember you arresting me." Well, at about that point in time, I pulled out one of the 3 guns I was carrying, put it under the table, flashed it at him first, put it under the table, and I say, "If you blow my cover to the guy I'm buying the dope from, you're going to die right here and now." And he kept his mouth shut.
Yep.
Probably realized that I was serious at the time.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and then thankfully, about 30 seconds later, I could hear glass doors being smashed and the back door to the apartment coming down while my surveillance team was coming in to get me the hell out of there.
It's a little scary sometimes because no matter what you do, a lot of these guys, they know you and they remember you, you know.
Well,
Uh, it's dangerous.
yeah, and if they're looking at hard time, they're going to take you out.
They got nothing to lose.
You're right about that.
Let me ask you a little bit about the kind of equipment you use. When you started out, what kind of weapon did you carry?
Carried in Smith & Wesson 5-shot Model 10 .38 revolver, had a pair of handcuffs, had a belt loop that held 12 rounds. Had a slapjack that I kept in my pant pocket, and then everybody carried a 5-cell flashlight. That was about it.
Yeah, standard loadout back then. You're a few years ahead of me. I started in 73, so that was pretty consistent for the era from what I remember.
Well, and we started in '69. We also had the Bell helmets. We didn't have soft hats yet.
Well, do you recall the cars you were driving?
Yeah, we were driving. At that time, we had a couple of Fords, 427s, and then we went to the Plymouth. And we were kind of lucky that, being in the Detroit area, we really got the cream of the crop as far as vehicles go because, they wanted us to put some miles on them. But
Yeah.
as far as, we had a radio. We didn't have computers yet. We had the double bar light up on top. And in Troy, since we were kind of rural, we had shovels, lengths of rope. We had resuscitators and first aid kits and flares, and that was about the whole kit and caboodle.
And the job got done. That's what all you needed back then.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, I think our attire at the time was much more professional than what you see today.
Were you all in dark blue uniforms?
No, at that time we were dark blue pants with stripes, and we had a lighter blue shirt. We also had, the Eisenhower jackets, and then we had blouses that we could also wear. Everybody wore shiny shoes too.
More of a Class A appearance.
Absolutely.
There's a lot to be said for that. I call it the old Reed and Malloy look, where you get out of the car and you ring your baton and you come out looking like you mean business, and that has a pretty strong effect on the public. It commands respect.
Absolutely. When you got out of that car and you had that soft hat on later on, or you had that helmet on, they knew they were dealing with a cop. Today, I can't tell the cops from the security officers.
It's quite a change. And not
Yeah, it is. And it went all for comfort rather than appearance.
And no disrespect to these guys. They're fighting a threat that I couldn't have even imagined would be happening in this country. Back then, I couldn't imagine that the people would turn on the police like they have. But so no disrespect to these new young officers, but I think I kind of wish that more departments would try to go back to the Class A type of an appearance. That's just subjective an opinion, But
I agree with you, and I think things began to turn when we went to the baseball caps and we allow the facial hair. It just does not look professional. I used to kid Metro a lot that many of their officers went to the soft uniform, being the golf shirt with the stenciled on badge and the khaki pants and the tennis shoes. Well, I'll tell you what, in some ways that looks more professional than what you see today with the non-tailored pajamas, and I hate to say it that way, the tennis shoes and the facial hair and the ball caps.
it's a new world out there, but
Well, and it also goes back to the fact that there's just no respect for cops today.
Every officer and employee in law enforcement wants to succeed, but do they have the tools they need? Backup is on the way. Excellence in law enforcement courses bridge the gap between strong departments and strong communities through often overlooked interpersonal and communication skills. Discover affordable, asynchronous, cutting-edge online training in developing character, critical thinking, establishing trust, and command presence. Visit Sabbath Learning to investigate further. We offer individual, agency, and academic rates.
the new generation is up against it. and more power to them, whatever, you know, they can do. I wish them the best because I've never seen it like this before. Even back in the 60s, it never got this crazy.
No, I agree with you. And one point I really want to make too is, we talked about being retired. We've never retired. We really haven't. Our beats have just expanded, and we don't get paid for what we do. I
Yeah.
I never pass a single officer out with a stop, whether it be a subject or a vehicle. My wife is constantly harping at me, "You don't work anymore." I said, "Hey, you know, I'm never going to let somebody get hurt when I could step in and help them out."
And I think it's every retired officer is going to slow down and stop and watch and make sure that they get it. They may not be sent a code 4, but they're watching until it's code 4 to make sure that officer is safe and on their way. And it never ends. You know,
No,
I just think it's in your blood. It stays in your blood, and you always watch out for these guys.
I'm a little bit discouraged by what we're seeing today, though. Our our FBI director, our attorney general, all say that times are ripe for situations to come about. And yet, police administrators today, are not looking at us old dinosaurs to step in and help, if the need arises. And I think they're missing the boat. There's about 700,000 retired cops out there who still have the mindset and still could help out, if the need arises. And they just won't do it. I mean, I would love to be truthful with you, for once in a while be able to walk into a substation and sit through a roll call just to get some information as to what's really going on.
I haven't been to a police department in a long time. I was a contractor after 9/11 for a while, but that was something different, and that was developing training programs and so forth. And obviously, the sponsor for all this is our training programs that we're trying to make available for police departments across the country and help that way. But there is hundreds of thousands of retirees that have the ability to contribute in some way, for those who wish to, and it's a powerful resource.
Well, and I think the problem is there's too many empire builders out today. Uh, you know, with the school shootings and whatever else, we're all dads, we're uncles, we're grandfathers. I tried to put a program together where we could put some retired cops into the schools, who still have the ability to get the job done. And, that nobody wanted to go along with it. We've got a resource base right now called HR 218. You're probably familiar with it, where retired cops who retired in good standing are given the right to carry firearms, irrespective of state laws. I mean, why couldn't we use that as a database to put a group together where we could put 4, 5, 6 retired cops into the schools, just looking out for the kids and whatever else? But no, the school police don't want it because it takes jobs away from them, just like most of the municipal and state and county agencies. If we had a network of retired cops who were volunteering their services, they can't go to the county commissioners and state senators and whatever else asking for more money.
Good point. Well, we're about at the max of our time, Bill. So I want to thank you for joining me on this. It's a pleasure visiting with you and talking to you. I learned a lot, and I think the viewers will enjoy hearing the stories.
Well, you're very,
Closing,
very, very welcome.
any closing thoughts before we wrap?
I'm going to take you up on that offer you made me to review the book I'm writing. It's going to
Okay.
have some of those anecdotes and some of the real life adventures that us coppers in suburban Detroit went through back in the day.
That sounds great, like a great idea. I would be happy to do that and help you get that published, and we'll come get you back on we'll do some little preview chapter discussions, maybe with some of these stories, and get some interest generated on that book. All right. Well, thanks, Bill, and everyone watching. Appreciate you signing on and watching the show.
Loading from Loops is brought to you by Sabbath Learning. Register now for the Excellence in Law Enforcement courses. Click the link below for more information.